Okay, the apportionment workshop of April 28th, 2022 is now in session. Call to order. James, please the roll call.
Chairman Sylvia,
Here.
Vice Chairman Maville,
Here.
Commissioner Walter,
Here.
Treasurer Pyle. See him. And Commissioner Laird. is Not here as well.
James, are you expecting either Pyle or later to?
Commissioner Laird says she'd be driving, but she would call in by phone. Commissioner Pyle, I was pretty sure he accepted the invite.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you all for attending. I'll now turn the meeting over to Dr. Strong for his discussion on the economic study for apportionment. Dr. Strong, the floor is yours.
Unmute.
Dr. Strong, if you can hear us, we need you to unmute.
I think Commissioner Laird is a 908.
Okay.
So she's here.
Can you confirm that she is here? Ask her to confirm.
Ask her to unmute. I'm gonna email Dr. Strong.
Unfortunately, yes.
The 908 number is Commissioner Laird. Confirmed.
Okay.
You guys are reaching out to Dr. Strong.
Yeah, I just
Okay.
emailed him. Do you want to try to call him real quick, Dan? See if you can unmute.
Yeah, I asked him to unmute already. Still
Hey, we're still waiting for Dr. Strong to come in.
sounds like Dan's got him on the phone.
Mhm.
Let me see if I can press the ask some, but I don't know if I can see that. Do you get a notification on that now?
Chairman Sylvia, hi. May I
Yes.
recommend at some of, when we have guest speakers, that the staff kind of cues them up 5 or 6 minutes before and gets them all
Yeah.
versus, versus this, because it, can be.
Yeah.
We already did.
That's-
We have him queued up.
Hadn't queued up, but again, very good point. Thank you, Vice Chair.
Sounds like he's having technical difficulties.
Did he speak when we queued him up earlier?
He did?
Did he?
Mhm.
Okay, so he did speak earlier.
Yeah, well, Dan, he didn't join into the meeting till like a minute before, but Dan had spoke to him on the phone 15, 20 minutes prior to the meeting.
Okay, so
And so,
I think the Vice Chair's point's well taken.
yeah,
Maybe when we have a guest speaker, that they at least log in and say something to us
Early.
4 or 5 minutes before the
Can you
meeting.
hear? Can anybody hear me?
Now we can.
Hello?
Hi.
Hallelujah. Hi,
You are marked present.
thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm guessing because of the technical difficulties, Dr. Strong's gonna call in instead of like he did last meeting. Just waiting for him to do that now.
Okay. Well, we do need to make sure this, any guest speakers, we arrange 3 to 5 minutes ahead of time that they can actually communicate.
Well, I say like 15 minutes, like
All right,
super
15
early.
minutes.
I had the meeting opened up 30 minutes early today just to make sure the link worked and everything. So I guess
Yeah, you did your job.
next step would be just to make sure they know to get in on. So we avoid issues like this.
In a staff defense, I think it's a user error
You said it, we didn't.
from 5 years experience.
Okay, good point, well taken. Hang on. Here we go. You want to move it around and go through the timeline?
Bill's
Who's gonna do this?
Bill Strong is attendee.
Yeah, I have it. I can pull it up if we want to.
Okay,
We're talking
okay.
Linda, can you mute your phone?
I'm gonna try right now.
Okay, commissioners, we're gonna change the order a little bit. We're gonna ask the executive director to talk about the timeline for apportionment, and then we'll get Dr. Strong in afterwards. So executive director, the floor is yours.
Hang on one second, we're gonna screen share this timeline. So in response to Vice Chairman Maville's emails earlier this week, we put together a timeline to show apportionment and budget.
Executive director.
yes.
Does Commissioner Laird have this timeline? I know she's driving, but does she have it?
No,
No.
we're just showing it now.
We're just showing it
Yeah,
now. Okay.
So we wanted to go through this. We had started working on this a few weeks ago in terms of the apportionment piece. James just went through trim training with the state. So we were able to put this together this week. But I wanted to share this with everyone and kind of go through it a little bit. Obviously, you know, the big piece with the apportionment is today, Dr. Strong's findings with his additional data information regarding the recreational percentage. So hopefully we'll be able to finalize that today. And then give ourselves a week to make sure that we have all of the correct information so that we can then reach out to the county, to reach out with Steve Battelle and his team and go through that information with him. We would also need to work with the county manager and the Board of County Commission to get a new interlocal agreement, should this all change our percentage, which we think it will, to get on a June meeting of the Board of County Commissioners. I do have a call into Roger Desjardins. I spoke with him a few times last week, and he said he would get back with me to let me know how much notice we would need to put an item on the agenda. So as soon as I know that, I'll update this timeline for you. Let's see, and then once we have all of that, Dan will update the apportionment spreadsheets and the maps. Once he has all of the data and is able to change the formulas, he will do that. We will send final apportionment letters to property owners. We are required by legislation to have those out 30 days before the voting meeting. Our August 8th meeting is our board meeting, our voting board meeting, and that's when you all would vote the final apportionment at the board meeting. And 8/12 is when we need to submit the final apportionment to the county. And 9/1 is the deadline to submit final apportionment to the county.
So Vice Chair Mobile, would you have any comments?
Yeah, sure. Okay, so there's some glitches here. So first of all, when you have the final apportionment meeting and it's sent out and all that, you have to wait 2 weeks and create another meeting because there's a 2-week period where people can chime in and say, well, I don't agree, or this or that. And then there's a final vote after a 2-week waiting period.
I think Vice Chairman Maville, you're confusing that with the trim. So if you look here at this timeline, it shows that the final apportionment letters go out to property owners. And then, as I said previously, we have 30 days from the time they go out and the time we have that final apportionment board meeting to hear from anyone with their concerns and be able to address them. if you look at the next, if you look at below, that's when it's exactly as you described. You have to set a preliminary trim. You have to notice it. You have to do the final trim, and then the trim goes to the state. So I think you may have the two confused, because what you're talking about, we actually have 30 days in between the letters and the final vote to hear from residents. And that's by legislation.
Okay, so I see the DR 420 form goes out, because just for the public, if you're ever watching, what that means is that that's the final revenue, official fixed revenue as put together by Matt Caldwell's office. So once that letter comes out, we are able to utilize the number on the apportionment, on the final apportionment, God willing that we have the county on board with Dr. Strong's new numbers. But basically we can't send out a letter till, well, usually a couple of days after, or that day, whenever it's formed on, 7/1. No, June, yeah, right. We'll know on June 1st what the estimate is. And usually the final number and the estimate are not that far behind. Now, I'm not saying this. This is according to my conversation with Matt Caldwell yesterday. And the purpose of this is so people are aware that they're going to be receiving their notices, that there will be meetings, and the purpose is for the public to know the milestones and the actual dates, because as you can see, this list here is there's a lot going on, and it's and we're down to weeks. So thank you for putting this together.
Hey, Treasurer Pyle, do you have any comments?
No, I've talked to Jennifer, and I think the information she's provided has been very helpful. I just want to make sure that we can get everything done in the time frame that we're talking about. And there is not enough time to have mistakes and do-overs. There are other things that have happened over the last year that we had to have do-overs on, but they weren't as critical as this. So I just want to make sure we have enough staff time devoted to meeting all these deadlines.
Commissioner Laird, do you have any comments?
Excuse me.
I muted her because she was having trouble muting herself, so we have to wait for her to unmute. Because she was having a lot of background noise from the traffic, so I muted her.
Then let's move to Commissioner Walter. Do you have any comments?
Yeah, I have no comments. Sorry about that.
Okay. All right, thank you. Commissioner Walter.
Yes, thank you. My other comment would be on the budget portion of this. Review and finalize with Commissioner Walter. I think it would review and finalize with Commissioner Walter and Pyle, as he's the treasurer. I'm reviewing it because a couple of meetings ago, I think we all agreed that we wanted to go to a cash basis, not a straight line basis on how we budget going forward. So that's what I'm looking at is, are we layering in expenses correctly and revenues correctly, and we're not straight lining all that. And I think Commissioner Pyle agreed that we wanted to move in that direction too, but definitely include him since he's the treasurer. Thank you.
Chairman, may I make one more statement, please?
Of course, Vice Chair.
Thank you. With the budget, I don't understand why this wouldn't be something that would be worked with our treasurer versus, Bob Walter can add a lot of value, there's no question. But I see this as something that Commissioner Pyle should be in charge of. Also, there's been, we might have an opportunity to really trim down our budget due to the revenue coming in. And I'm sure Commissioner Pyle would like to put as much fiduciary oversight in a more modest manner, because, budgets are for utilizing, not just spending. So, I just wanted to point that out because I noticed in the email, the point of that Commissioner Walter would be working with our executive director. And I really think it should be as treasurer and also with his background and experience, he should be in charge. And that would be, going forward the case with,
Executive Director, you wanted to comment?
Yes, sir. Thank you. So the reason that Commissioner Walter was named is because that's one of the action items you all delineated to him and I. My thought was initially was to review it, put the spreadsheet together, review it with Commissioner Walter, and then share it with Commissioner Pyle to avoid any sunshine issues. We can do that separately. That's not a problem. So that by the time it comes to the full board in a workshop, it's been blessed by Commissioner Pyle and Commissioner Walter.
Yeah, I did like the vice chair's sentiment that the treasurer has to be significantly involved in this process. I mean, there's no other way. I mean, it's the budget and the treasurer has to be involved. So I do share the sentiments of the vice chair.
And thank you, Chairman, but
Was I on mute when I talked?
Yeah.
I mean, when I spoke earlier, was I on mute or did anybody hear me?
No, sir, we heard you. Thank you.
Because that's exactly what I said was Chairman Pyle or Treasurer Pyle should be in charge of this, and I was only there for formatting and cash basis.
Correct.
Yeah, and also, thank you, and we did hear you, and it was something I wanted to say, but I wanted to wait my turn. But Jennifer, the point is, well, we made that an action item. In the spirit of things, now that we've thought about it, it isn't the best action item. The best action item is Commissioner Pyle in charge and Bob volunteering to add an outside view. And that's what I'm saying. So the rationale that we have Bob do it and then Dick look over it, I'm not in favor of. I think that Commissioner Pyle should be in charge and then we all look over it and Bob can add some great things. But I think Commissioner Pyle should be the leader of this. And I'm asking the rest of the board to reconsider, that we go in that direction, regardless of the vote of the action item. And it wasn't even a vote. It was a discussion and we went over a bunch of things. And the beauty, what we should be able to do is, like a sailboat, you change course with the wind because you want to get there as best as possible. So Chairman Sylvia, that's what I'm bringing to the table right now. Can we, since nothing's begun.
Let me ask Commissioner Pyle. Commissioner Pyle, do you have the bandwidth right now to get involved with this and step up and then work with the executive director and then perhaps get some additional insight from Commissioner Walter? So Commissioner Pyle, do you have the bandwidth to step up and get involved right now?
Yes, I do. And this would be my third budget involvement since I've been on the board. And I certainly would like to do that. Now, as I see the timetable, you're talking about a budget workshop on July 21st. First of all, I'm not going to be in the country on July 21st. So I think we'll have to figure out exactly when we can have a budget workshop, possibly earlier. But I'm leaving town on July 9th and will not be back until about August 9th.
Okay.
So if we could schedule a budget workshop, say the second week of August, we could with all the commissioners, and then we can get that budget approved, because I'm not looking at the budget for this coming year. I'm not expecting it to be much different than it's been in the past, where we budget a surplus of maybe $100,000 that can be given to the CEPD to carry out some of their functions.
So to clarify then, you and the executive director will set up sometime in August, a budget workshop. And you will be the primary go-to person with the executive director. And that Mr. Commissioner Walters is going to be working with it later along with the other board members, but he's relieved of taking primary responsibility right now. Is that a correct reading?
Well, I would hope that the budget workshop that we set up for early August will be to approve the work that the executive director and myself have done to propose a budget to the commissioners.
Exactly.
No, that's right. That's what we're gonna do, right?
So,
Can I ask a question? There's a second
Yes.
week of August. I mean, the DR 420, we have to fill out the trim portion of it with our new budgets and submit it by what date? Because if you meet the second week of August to talk about the budgets, you've got 8/4 for the DR 420.
yeah, the 29, it looks like the DR 420 section must be filled out and returned to the property appraiser on August 4th.
That's
So-
the,
Can I say something? Can I say something?
And-
The executive director, please.
So what we can do then, if you're okay with it, Treasurer Pyle, is we can move this up in terms of you and I working together and having this ready by June, if you'd like you and I could work on it over the next few weeks before you head out of town. And then we could potentially do a workshop at the end of June. Once you and I have worked through it, and then we can present it to the rest of the board at the end of June. Would that be okay, rather than waiting until you come back?
Yeah, no, I think the sooner the better.
Okay.
Will we have the information sufficient to submit something in mid-June, for example?
Oh, yes, James and I have been working on the budget PowerPoint that I did last year. We're trimming some things up and making it a little more efficient. I'm working with Jason Smith as well to use actual expenses versus full, as the way that Commissioner Walter explained it earlier. So I should have this done within the next few weeks, and then you and I can review it. And that way, what I want to do is similar to what I did last year, which is show you what the budget would look like if you went to the rollback rate, if you stayed the same, or if you went up. I'm going to show you those three scenarios, just like I did last year. And then you and I can massage the spreadsheet if you'd like.
And this is the chair. James, you had a comment.
yeah, on the August 4th timeline for the DR 420, it can be done sooner than that. That's like the absolute drop dead, cannot be any later than that. So I just wanted to point that out. Like, we could always get that in a lot sooner than the 8/4 deadline.
Yeah.
Do you have any more drop dead dates? Because if you have drop dead dates, you should put a week ahead as our due date.
Yeah, that's what I did forgot to do it on that one, but
So that, yes, and I did do that, Commissioner Walter. If you look, it says budget workshop 7/21. That's when you all would bless it. That's when we would then do the DR 420, and then you would set preliminary trim and set final. So if you're more comfortable that we get this done at the end of June, since Treasurer Pyle is leaving, I'm happy to do that as well.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think if we set the budget workshop, the target date for the budget workshop sometime in early June.
Well,
Yeah, so the chair has the sense that Commissioner Pyle and the executive director will work something out with respect to a meeting in June, and we'll have a budget workshop July 21st. That'll meet any concerns with the DR 420, and we can move forward.
well, we want to move it up because remember Commissioner Powell will be out of the country. So we're going to move it up to the end of June. The end of June will be,
Right,
okay,
okay.
all right, I'm just
So
gonna,
the end of June budget workshop. Excellent.
And Chairman,
Thank you.
point of reference, the estimate is June 1st for the revenue. And so anything June 1st, you have numbers you can work with,
You're
for
breaking still my end, you are.
Commissioner Pyle. And in addition to that, don't forget there's a lot can be done via Zoom remotely as they're working together. So I just want to sort of point that out, that June 1st, you have a really good number to work with as far
Fair
as the
enough.
workshop. That's,
Thank you.
point that out.
Yeah, I would agree that if we think about June 1st, once we get those property appraiser estimates, let's get the review and finalize the PowerPoint presentation. And if we could schedule it for even early June, and let's set submission of the DR 420 section 2 filled out and returned by July 10th or something like that. That way we're sure that it gets there.
Well, again, I will leave that, Commissioner Pyle, up to you and the executive director to work out some of these dates, and we can move forward. And again, thanks to everyone. Dr. Strong, you now have the floor to discuss that apportionment model.
I'll share that spreadsheet.
We have a spreadsheet coming up.
Am I muted?
Yes.
Strong, we can hear you loud and clear.
Okay, that's good. Right. So I don't know if everybody is up to speed or not, but what I was trying to do was to use information on vacation rentals on Captiva to see whether we can increase the recreational benefits from the for the project. And initially, I had received data from Royal, Shell, and American Realty Group. And what I wanted to do was to compare the situation in 2018, which was the year in which we did our beach surveys to calculate the recreation benefits, and 2021, which is the latest year, and also happens to be the first year of your project. I was not really able to use the data that were kindly given to me by the two local agencies. And so what I did was I went to the Convention and Visitors Bureau website, because they produce data on conditions in the vacation rental markets on a regular quarterly basis. And I found that there was a really large increase in room nights at vacation rental units countywide, and far greater than what we had expected when we did the 2018 study. So if you can see, the spreadsheet that I sent, the data are actually from the Lee County Convention and Visitors Bureau. They produce quarterly visitor profiles and occupancy analyses every quarter. And they have that data going all the way back to 2012 and all the way up through 2021. It takes a little time for, it takes several months after the quarter ends before they get another study. And so we have it up through 2021, but nothing yet from 2022. And the columns represent the 4 quarters of the year. So the first column labeled January, March is the first quarter. The second column labeled April, June is the second quarter, and July, September is the third quarter, and October, December is the fourth quarter. And the numbers are the number of occupied room nights that the research firm that does the study for the Convention and Visitors Bureau calculate countywide. And they are for vacation rentals. That is for the actual technical term that they don't use. They use vacation rentals, but not in the title. They say it's for condominiums, for vacation homes, and other things that form part of the vacation rental market. And we haven't had data in the past on the vacation rental market, and now we have it. We have it for the county, and you can see if you go down the years are on the left column: 2012, 2013, 2014, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, and 21. So 2018 is the year in which we did our studies of the beach use. And then 2020 was the year of COVID. And then 2021 was the year after COVID, in the sense that we had vaccines that were developed right at the end of 2019. 2020. And the picture that I show you there shows that vacation rental room nights were pretty constant all the way up through 2018 from 2012. And then there was a sharp increase in 2019. And then there was the COVID collapse in 2020, and now you have the snapback, the recovery in 2021. And if you look at I didn't copy that number, I'm sorry. But between 2018 and 2021, the room nights total across the 4 quarters increased by 40%, a little over 40%, which is a huge increase. And you see most of that increase occurred in 2021. It was actually in the last 3 quarters of 2021. The first quarter was down, and that's because not everybody had been vaccinated, and because people tend to book vacation travel well in advance of when they undertake it in general. So the benefit of the vaccines didn't show through until beginning in the 2nd and 3rd and 4th quarter, when you had a very substantial increase. So the 40% increase, you have to subtract from that previous increases that we had made in the 2018 numbers. The first was the red tide event, and we had made a 3.5% adjustment for that. And then the second one was using the data on the hotels and the resorts, Twin Waters and South Seas numbers, which gave an additional 10%. So the total increase that we had made to the recreational benefits was 13.5%. Now we have 40% coming about in the vacation rental market. So we're subtracting out the 13.5%. Because the 13.5% reflects the growth in beach use as a result of adjusting for the red tide and adjusting for the room nights, or was actually we used occupancy at that time, but in the resorts. So that leaves us with 26.5% as an increase between 2018 and 2021. So that's a sizable a very sizable increase. However, a portion of that increase is due to the kind of snapback from COVID-19. In other words, the place was kind of pretty depressed in 2020 before the vaccines were developed. And then when the vaccines were developed, people said, oh, well, I want to go back to Captiva and go back to the beach and travel again. They didn't just go back to the normal level of travel because they had missed a year and maybe a little more than a year. And so there was extra travel that took place in 2021 as the economy opened up, as people got vaccinated, and as the place turned around. So you can expect, and that is kind of good for the recreation benefits of the project, because essentially what happened was that trips people were intending to take to Captiva in 2020, they ultimately took in 2021. And of course, the new project, came on board in 2021. So the postponed trips were added to the normal level of trips in 2021, and they were within the window of the project. What we're trying to do here is we're trying to estimate or project. What we did in 2018 was project the amount of recreational beach use that would occur on Captiva when the new project was completed. And so some trips that would normally have taken place before the new project was completed were pushed into the time period of the new project. So you got an increase a genuine increase in trips. But those trips will fade away over time. In other words, people will get back to more normal behavior after they get over the excitement of being able to get back and travel and go to Captiva again. So we know that they went up by 26.5% in 2021, but we know that they won't necessarily stay at that high level for the entire project. I presume, I'm not sure exactly when your renourishment interval is. Is it about 8 to 10 years or something? But between now and the next renourishment, the recreational benefits will average higher numbers because of the snapback and the return to normalcy. And the snapback will fade after a few years, but you still will have a higher average over the course of the project, and therefore we need to take some portion of the 26.5% increase and assume that that's what the average will be during the new project. And I suggested we just take the midpoint between 0 and 26.5 and assume that, roughly 13% of the recreational benefits will be increased by 13% because of the change that has occurred as a result of the movement of trips from before the project into the project period.
Dr. Strong, may I ask you a question, please?
So Vice Chair
Yes, of course.
McGill, Vice Chair McGill, the floor is open. Go ahead and ask your question.
Thank you. Okay, so Dr. Strong, I'm fully booked in 23 with some of the properties, and I wanted to interject another element that you did not mention. The economy first of all, the people that come here in clientele, and I think I can be backed by Commissioner Walter, it's more of an executive level clientele. And what I mean by that is a lot of people are freer now because they can do Zoom meetings like we're doing. So there's more applicability for more vacations here. You know, so and I just want to know if you would consider that to be, is instead of just like meeting it in the middle, more like hitting it at 75%, because the nature of the traveler has changed. There's just more people coming here because of the flexibility of their work environment, that they can take their work with them. And keep in mind the Captiva, because it again, an executive level clientele. So would you consider adding that into your factor, maybe bringing it to 75% versus 50%? Because I don't think, with all due respect, that that it's going to taper off that much. And
let me as chair just simply say, I would support the vice chair's point. Trying to define normal as sort of going back to where we might have been some point in the past. I think the vice chair's point is very well taken with respect to the Zoom meetings and people staying here more often. I think, again, in my opinion, 50% is a little bit of a low number. I would support some adjustment towards what the vice chair has suggested.
thank you.
If I can add my 2 cents.
Go ahead,
Yes,
Commissioner.
please.
We'd like a
Please.
Well, actually, I agree with the 50%. Let me tell you why. Because in 2021, you had no Caribbean, you had no Europe, you had no cruise lines, you had no nothing. And as much as I agree with the traveler and the executive and the Zooms, they're going to have an abundant more choices to travel in 2023 going forward. We specifically at South Seas have actually used the same 50%. And I was waiting till Dr. Strong finished to see what he was going to say. But we estimate that half of our year-over-year impact is just that. It's just the bounce effect. It's a dead cat bounce, if you will. It's a rebound effect. And they're going to have many more choices to go to. And I think if you look at the increases in revenues and bed taxes that you're finding in Lee County this year, are more so on the rate side than they are occupancy side in 2022.
That please, a rebuttal.
Okay, so Commissioner Pyle, do you have a comment? Commissioner Pyle, do you have a comment? Commissioner Laird, do you have a comment?
Yeah,
Oh, go ahead.
this is Dick. My comment is, let's leave it to the experts. The experts are saying 50%. I think we go with that.
Mr. Powell, you cut out. We can't hear you.
I just said, this is Dick. I just said that I like going with the experts, and the experts are saying 50%, so I think that's what we should do.
Okay, you'll feel comfortable with 50%. Chairman Laird, Commissioner Laird?
Yes, I really appreciate Bob's comments. I think he understands this, and this is his life. And I think he understands this better than I do for sure. So I would go with whatever he is saying at this point in time.
Okay. Okay, so Treasurer Pyle, do you have any comments independent of the 50% debate?
No, I think the report, speaks to the question we were asking, and the report answers that question.
Commissioner Laird, would you have any additional comments?
No, my question is, if we submit this with any higher numbers, is it going to make a difference? But maybe that's later in the meeting. I don't know. But so either now or later, that's my question.
Okay, Executive Director, would you like to address that question?
Yes, it will have an effect on the numbers. If we go higher, 100% it will have an effect.
Good.
About how much? How much are we talking about?
We don't know that yet.
Daniel,
Are we talking 1,000, 10,000, 100,000, 500,000.
I don't know if we want to necessarily look at it that way, because then we can construe it as backing into a number for one reason or another.
That's a good point. That's a very good point, Commissioner.
No,
Yep.
that wasn't my point. My point was, is it worth changing? I don't want to back into any numbers at all, okay?
I think
Depending on the amount that we can adjust this recreational value of the beach, it would alter the correlation between the storm protection benefit reduction monetary value versus the recreation benefit. And as we know, the county utilizes the recreation benefit very heavily as they multiply that times our public access to determine their amount of funding. So the higher the amount of recreation benefit value percentage that we have, subsequently, the more county funding we'll receive.
Higher cost share percentage.
Yes.
Daniel, when we spoke before, we looked at numbers and a 10%, was it a 15% increase got us an additional $1 million? We were kind of ballparking numbers. I don't know if it's being understood here, fair share of recreational benefits on the upside. We're talking an extra $1 million in grant funding. We've had this discussion many times in the public. Dan, can you?
For frame of reference, when we went from the 55% recreation benefit up to the 70.6 benefit, it did increase the county's funding projection by about $1 million. That in total is an entire shift from recreation to storm benefits. So that's not talking about just adjusting the recreation benefits, it's a direct contrast of those. So when we increase the recreation value, we're not touching the storm value. That still has its own value. So if we increase that by 15%, it's not going to be as much. So, you know, if we were to increase this by, say, 13%, it'd probably be, I hate throwing out numbers, and I'm going to go and say off the record, but it would be probably north of 100,000, but south of 500,000.
I think that's fair.
Okay, that's what I wanted. I wanted order of magnitude. So this is very much worth doing, if that's what we believe.
Commissioner Walter, do you have any additional comments?
No, I don't. Thank you.
Okay, so let me ask Dr. Strong, just to be very, very clear. So we're going to use this Convention Business Bureau, their set of numbers. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so let me ask you, is there anyone else who uses these numbers to justify some type of action?
Well, it's the standard data that's prepared to track the health of the tourism industry in the county, but I don't know exactly who uses them for what.
Well, I would suggest the CVB, VCB, sorry, use it for future marketing dollars, because they have to determine what sort of a bed tax is flowing in.
So what I'm thinking of, Commissioner Walter, is when we advance this justification for an adjustment, will Lee County look at these numbers and say, oh, yes, they are reasonable numbers to use? Or will they say, these are crazy numbers, no one else uses these numbers, what are you doing? So I'm trying to figure out, you know, again, validation, some kind of.
I took
Go ahead.
the liberty.
We could ask the VCB what they're looking for in 2023.
Chairman Sylvia, may I be quick? I took the liberty of speaking to our Commissioner, Kevin Ruane, today. He's very aware of the meeting. He's waiting for the hard numbers. He understands the predicament about some of this study being done during red tide. He said, quote unquote, just get me the hard numbers right away. And he thinks the other commissioners will feel the same way, that there should be an increase. And what I wanted to recommend was that you and Dan, because he had something else to say, so bear with me. He wanted, I think it'd be very good for right away for you and Daniel to go see Chairman Ruane with Dr. Strong's numbers, which I think that they will find highly respectable. And he also suggested, since Mayor Mayor Holly came at our last meeting and said publicly that she's there to help, and the Sister Island thing and all that, that Jennifer go to, our director, go to meet with Holly to reconsider the interlocal agreement that we've had together for 36 years, to join, because that'll add another portal for more funding, and this can all still be accomplished so that we get a much better flexible apportionment.
Vice Chair, in your conversations with Commissioner Ruane, did you have a sense or that something like this Convention and Visitor Bureau number would be a reasonable number for them to at least accept and talk about?
Well, what I thought was, knowing that the hard numbers were coming from our economist, the data source, it's like the engineer. We don't care about, as long as he signs off on it and he's putting his name on it, they're going to look a little bit. But I can't answer that question perfectly, but I would be shocked if they wouldn't accept the numbers from the TDC. I would be absolutely shocked. I don't think it's going to be a problem.
Excellent. Okay, so Dan and I have a field trip.
Yes, and you have to call Paul, his assistant tomorrow morning, set up a time, and he's ready for action. And he reminded me not once, not twice, but 3 times that since I'm not the one, Mayor Holly's not very happy with me apparently, but Jennifer would be, the board would be well served if Jennifer would go meet with Mayor Holly as Smith and just try to examine why we can't still have an interlocal agreement like we've always had. And if she needs some frame of reference and all that, then, there's many sources. There's Mr. Mullins, although, maybe there's other people. There's me, there's Kevin, there's a lot of people, but she should go in there and plead a case that say, because that could be another $500,000 or something.
Good. Let me interrupt for 1 minute. Commissioner Wade, I think you had a comment.
Excuse me.
Commissioner Wade?
It's just a minute. The interlocal agreement, is this it's related to money, but isn't this a new topic? And can't we close off on this one and then talk about the interlocal agreement if we like to?
We can talk after Commissioner's comments. I just, since I had the floor for a second, Kevin Ruane is waiting for this. I didn't want to tell him it was coming until I knew it was going to have a positive effect. Now we know, we've had our meeting.
Yep.
And then the second thing,
Okay, and
explaining to me, I
So
can.
Executive Director, please, you had a comment?
Yes. My concern is that I had spoken with Roger Desjardins a few times, and he wanted to make sure that we understood the process, that we needed to go to staff first. And he had asked that we go to staff first prior to reaching out to our commissioner. So I would like to try to accomplish both and bring Steve Boutel and Mike Campbell into the loop tomorrow. And then after they're brought into the loop, then I would suggest, yes, Dan, you can contact Pamela Smith. I have her contact information, and you can set up a meeting with you and Chairman Sylvia.
All right, let's
And
do
then,
it.
wait, in terms of the interlocal agreement, you're talking about interlocal agreement where in the past 2 projects or last project, Sanibel was involved in our project, and it gave us, I think it was extra revenue, but you're talking about changing the interlocal agreement with Lee County to include Sanibel moving forward, or for this last project, because the last project's already done.
Yeah, no, okay, let's backtrack. When did Roger tell you that you go to staff first?
Oh, please.
No question.
I think it was like 2 weeks ago. I gotta look.
That's important. Okay, so in December, Steve Boutel on the screen told us at the meeting.
April 18th.
Okay, good. Okay, so it's recent. Thank you. So in December, Steve Boutel said, the interlocal agreement's been signed. Those are the numbers you gave us, quote unquote. And as you know, we had to sign it because we couldn't get our funding, because we couldn't able to accomplish what we accomplished today months ago. So with that being said, that if Steve Battelle told us, bring it to the commissioners, did you tell Roger that, or do we, do we?
No, I didn't tell Roger that. I just know that Roger contacted me because he was concerned at the last meeting that this was happening. And I told him, yes, we're looking at some information, but the bottom line is, I respected the fact that, we need to go to staff first and then we'll reach out to the commissioner. And I think we can accomplish both.
All right, so Chairman, what I recommend is that you call Kevin and explain what Jennifer was told by Roger and see if he wants to put Roger in the room all together at once so we don't go in circles. There is a time element here. We're down to like 3 or
Yeah, it would be staff. I would recommend that you then maybe just bring staff in, like when Mullins and I went last year, we had Steve Patel, Steve's boss, one of the county attorneys, all in the room with us. So maybe we do that same scenario with you guys.
All right, let's see what happens.
Okay.
Okay, so we're done with
Do we-
Commissioner. Go ahead, Commissioner Lay. you have a comment?
Thank you, John. Do we need any motions on this, what we're doing or anything here? Do we have to officially vote on anything? Or we just have decided what we're doing
No.
and we're doing it?
Yeah, I think we're just going ahead and continue to move forward. This is a workshop. We don't have formal votes. I think we'll just leave it like that for right now. But again,
And then
this is an interactive process. As I understand it, it goes back and forth. So we'll make it work.
Okay. And so we've agreed in principle to the whatever, the 50% number, and we've agreed as a process for going to talk to the county. Is that right?
All right, you got it.
And Chair-
Cool. I'm fabulous.
yeah, and Chairman, thank you for understanding that it doesn't, and Linda, thanks for asking, but the whole purpose of having a staff and a chairman or a representative is that they can move things fast forward. This is a very time sensitive situation, and we want to move as quickly as possible. And we should be hitting this at all fronts. That's why I recommended if there was a conversation with Holly, with you and Jennifer, and at the same time, a conversation with Kevin and our chairman and Daniel, and then with the understanding simultaneously that, and by the way, Roger said that he would like staff to handle it. Let's do this all at once. That's not one step at a time. It's going to be weeks instead of days.
So what am I meeting with Holly Smith about? What interlocal agreement of our former, or for future projects or for this past project? Because the project's already done, right? They didn't want to sign on. So am I meeting with her about a future 8 years from now interlocal agreement?
No, neither. What you're doing is, unless the board thinks it's a bad idea, is we've had an interlocal agreement with them since 1988 that she is letting lapse because she doesn't want to have, or she is decide, or she or staff or whatever.
For what? What is the interlocal agreement for?
I thought it already lapsed.
I know, I was gonna say, what is it for? Can somebody educate me?
Agreement is when we do beach renourishment, that they get sand also, that
Right.
several
That's
aspects.
passed.
And as you, well, and every single time until the last time, where they decided they didn't want sand because they decided not to participate with us. Thus, the local agreement has expired, quote unquote, according to Kevin. He thinks it's a very bad idea to not have a continuing interlocal agreement. So there should be a discussion with our director and Holly, since she came at the last meeting and said she wanted to be as helpful as possible. So if you're asking questions.
So Renee, are you
That's not going to affect funding though, Renee.
Excuse me?
No, but
First.
Renee, are we going to, so what you want to do is, it will be an interlocal agreement where they don't owe any money, but it's sort of like, yeah, we like what you're doing up in Captiva? Is that the idea?
The answer is, I don't know, but my suspicion is that the county grants us more money when we have an interlocal, a continuing interlocal agreement. And those answers can be obtained probably from Steve Patel and Roger Desjardins. So we should be hitting this from all sides, all at once. We don't have to
The
do.
reason that we would have gotten more money in the last project is because of what Dan talked about earlier with public access and percentage. When you add that part of Sanibel to our project, it increases that percentage. So that's why we would have gotten more money. And the reason that Holly Milbrandt contacted me and Judy Zamambra was they did not want to spend any money purchasing sand. They wanted us to give them the sand. And that's why they were not participating.
That at the time, I remember, yeah.
Mhm.
So
So
maybe,
you're saying I'm supposed to meet with Holly about redoing an interlocal agreement that's gonna last from now to eternity or till the next project or?
well,
I'm
you know, it
still
would be
unclear.
nice, I don't know, let me ask the rest of the board. Board, what I'm saying is that we should readdress and talk about an interlocal agreement, what works for them, what works for us, because we've just established that we get more access, more money. And yes, there was a reluctance for them not to pay for sand because they had spent some money on the revetment in modifications. But we need to have an interactive dialogue. And now, Jennifer, if you don't understand it and you don't, I get the impression of the board, you're giving the impression to the board that you think this is, I guess, a waste of time or something. So all I'm
When
saying,
did I
No,
say
no,
that?
I don't get that impression at all, Renee. I think she's clearly asking, are you asking me to do something for the future and set up conversations? Or are you looking for me to have conversations and go back and seek funding that's not going to be there to begin with?
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Walter, for clarifying.
it's neither, but I really don't know what to tell you. It's just
What I
that,
could do is, I know that Commissioner Ruane has spoken to me before in the last couple months about bringing Mayor Smith to talk about this. So maybe what I'll do is I'll reach out to Commissioner Ruane, grab Holly and see if we can set up a meeting and the three of us can talk about it. Because I believe Commissioner Ruane understands this pretty well. So maybe I'll do that.
Commissioner Lay,
But to be clear, you're speaking of opening up that interlocal agreement
For the
moving
future.
forward, to revisit it
Yes.
and go back and
Yes.
say, hey, this worked for everybody. Probably a good idea. I understand that historically a year ago why you wanted out of it. I didn't agree, but hey, it is what it is. But moving forward, it's best for everybody that we have
Yeah,
this
I
agreement.
agree. Exactly.
Yeah, and-
Moving forward for the
that's
future.
what I'm-
Commissioner Lay, you had a comment?
yeah, no, excuse me.
I for one, yes, I am, because I don't have history here. I think it needs to be, what is the purpose of this interlocal agreement? And if we could specify that out, maybe Jennifer would know what she's supposed to be doing a little better too. What are we trying to accomplish other than having this agreement? It's supposed to cover what?
Okay, as a chair, let me cut this off for a minute and ask James, do we have any public comments? 'Cause
I have
that's on
not.
the agenda.
I have not seen anybody. There's, yeah, pretty much nobody, no publics here.
Okay,
Just-
then let's go back to this Commissioner Layard's comment of trying to identify the purpose of the interlocal agreement. And also Commissioner Walter's point that we're looking towards the future. Do we have any sense among the commissioners what we're looking at here? We need to define the purpose and we have to look to the future. Is that a fair statement?
It's a very fair statement. And and Bob and I are talking, we're in violent consensus.
I agree. We're on the
Yeah.
same page going forward. I'm just trying to clear up that Jennifer's asking, you're talking about revisiting it going forward, and the answer is yes.
Yeah.
That's what I needed clarification on. Thank
But
you.
what if we find out, if we do our research, that the interlocal agreement isn't expired, then maybe expires 2 weeks from now, and even though they didn't get any sand, they're still part of our agreement, and the county identifies that, and it's an extra 300,000. All I'm trying to say
Worth
is that
visiting,
there
worth
should-
visiting. I agree.
we're just having a conversation. Let's get the facts and let's move forward. And Jennifer said, well, what do I ask? Are we doing this? It's like, come on, let's have a nice, positive conversation about how we can work together, whether it's now or in the future, or maybe clean up the past a little so we, so we can, maybe we have money coming. All I'm saying is, I think, again, Kevin's suggestion, that since Jennifer and Holly, well, no, excuse me, he said, Jennifer's friends with Holly, and that Holly came to the meeting to say, I'm here to help. Okay, well, it would be wonderful, in my opinion, and that Jennifer goes in. If she wants to bring a commissioner also, that'd be fun too. I think Linda would be nice because she could talk about the Island Resiliency Campaign going on. It's a wonderful time to meet, and the subject matter can be to readdress, and then Jennifer can come back to us and say, this is what we talked about, this is what we found out. It's all I'm saying. It's that simple.
Yeah, I
Got it.
know.
So executive director, do you have enough
I do.
direction?
I think
to move
again,
forward?
what I'm gonna do is see if Commissioner Ruane would meet with both Holly and I to go over the past interlocal agreement, so then we know what we need to build for the future.
Okay, before we adjourn, I will express my disappointment to the vice chair that he wants us to have only one meeting in downtown Fort Myers. Dan and I were talking about several meetings at Ford's Garage, but I see we're only limited to one meeting, so I'm a little bit
You can
disappointed
have a
with that.
billion meetings. Were you kidding me? You go there every day. I would never say one meeting. Then you-
Yeah, I'll be out of the office. That's a bad thing.
Fair enough.
I don't know how to say this publicly, but Kevin strongly recommended that it would be us and them and not him. He strongly recommended. So Jennifer, I would strongly recommend that you consider taking everyone but Kevin.
I agree. Let me tell you why I agree with that wholeheartedly.
Yes.
Because, she's the mayor now. Let her run Sanibel.
Yes.
He's the past mayor. And even though they have a great work relationship,
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I think.
I think it's her gig.
Yeah, and I think Commissioner
Thank you
Ruane,
very
I think
much.
his purpose for saying that to me was because he had the knowledge and he could share the knowledge with both Holly and I because we were both new. And I think that's why he said that. So I'll circle back with Mayor Smith, no problem.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with calling Kevin and saying, look, I'm gonna have a meeting with Holly, give me some pointers.
I know, yeah, I know. I
Kevin,
got it.
yeah.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, this is Dick Kyle. I think it is important that the end result of this whole discussion about the interlocal agreement will be that we have a framework called an interlocal agreement, that every time we do a renourishment, we go back and revisit the interlocal agreement that's in place, rather than canceling it 1 year and then 8 years later starting it back up again and then canceling it. That way Sanibel and Captiva will know for planning purposes what the interlocal agreement allows for and doesn't allow for. I'm curious as to whether or not there are some strictures on the interlocal agreement that make it more difficult rather than helpful in the next renourishment project. I'm not aware of that type of information.
Excellent. Well said. That'll be something we have to look at to make sure some consistency. Love consistency. I'll tell you, not starting from scratch all over again. It's not useful. All right, I think we've done what we thought we were going to do today, and I think we can adjourn. Anyone have a last minute comment?
Yeah, Chairman, I have one comment. In
Yes, sir.
looking at my schedule, the budget work, and this is a message to James and Jennifer and anybody else who wants to get involved. But I would suggest that we head for a budget workshop on trim on the 7th of July. And that staff would work towards that goal of having a budget workshop with the commissioners. And then on the 8th, Thursday or Friday, July 8th, we would have a meeting of the CEPD to approve the budget and to send it on to the county.
You mean to do the, I'm sorry, just to clarify, you mean Commissioner Powell to do the preliminary trim? Because we have to do a preliminary trim and then we have to set it 2 weeks later. Is that right?
Right.
That's for legislation. So is that what you're referring?
Well, I want to make sure, it looked like the schedule was such that we are going to get the information from the county on June 1st. And then we can start working on the budget and get the trim report ready to submit, but make sure this trim report is submitted on the 8th of July, which is about a month earlier than it was in James's schedule.
I think so, yeah.
Okay, why don't you and I talk offline so I make sure I understand and I can, when you're on the phone with me, I can update this timeline together. We can do it together.
Yeah, could you have James right now bring up that schedule?
Yeah, right here, it's up.
Oh, I got screen share. Hang on 1 second.
Hold on, we'll screen share it
I'm
with
not
you.
screen sharing at this moment.
I'd like to leave this
There you go.
meeting. Yeah, I'd like to leave this meeting where we're all comfortable with what the timeline is. And so when I look at it, the property appraiser is providing us an estimate on June 1st.
Correct.
And on June 1st, we are going to complete the budget PowerPoint and spreadsheets with the CPA. That's good. June 1st to July 1st, we're going to review and finalize the treasurer's report. And on July 1st, the property appraiser will complete the DR 420 on July 1st. Then what I'm suggesting is to have a budget workshop on the 7th of July, not the 21st. And on the 8th of July, do what we were going to do on August 4th. Instead of August 4th, the DR 420 section 2 must be filled out. I want that instead of August 4th to be July 8th. You see that? And then you can set the preliminary trim for later if you want to. But I want to make sure that the preliminary is done by July 8th.
So you want to set preliminary trim for July 8th, correct?
Right. And on the 7th, we would have a budget workshop. Looks like you're meeting it.
Okay.
Did everybody understand that? I mean, these are.
Yeah, I got a
these
quick
are the
question, Dick.
timelines.
Do we really need a month to finalize the budget? I mean, we could shorten that
This
window
is
up.
all- Yeah, this is all very fluid. We
No,
don't
it's
need
just
a-
vacation.
no, it can be as fast or as quick as you guys wanted it to be. Now, I know some of you are gonna be out of town, and all of that, because we agreed to take hiatus in the month of July, but we can change that. We don't have to have hiatus in the month of July. So the other thing to remember.
I'm just suggesting if your review and finalize with Pyle and Walter was 6/1 to 6/20, that buys you 10 more days to push everything into to help
Yeah,
with
we can
the
do that.
schedule.
We can do that, and just remember, well, you weren't here last year, Bob, but we had a really difficult time making quorum last year during budgeting, and we struggled with that because of the vacations and with our municipal bond loan. So, you know, if we're all gonna agree to these dates, then I need to make sure I have a quorum.
Can we still legally do this on a Zoom?
No, you have to have a physical quorum to be able to do, especially with trim, you have to have a physical
Right.
quorum. You can't
That's why I was
ratify it.
asking. Okay.
Yeah,
And
so
that's why-
I'm happy to do this, but I just, you know,
Yeah,
I'll remind everybody that, you know, these are the dates we're gonna need quorum.
Yeah, July 8th is the number I look at, that we would have to have a quorum to approve the budget, July 8th.
But you have to post notices. I would suggest that you also add a little schedule of notices, because there's public notices that have to be posted during these periods too.
They
Yeah,
And I
do,
remember
yeah.
I remember a couple years ago, we had a great template going and a lovely Gantt chart, but we left out the one fact that we didn't have the public notice in there. And we had to
Hold on,
redo it all.
we need to check this because I want to say that we have to have the certain time frame to, so like you set the preliminary trim as you see 8/12, 8/29 to 9/12, which was original. You have to have that much time in between setting and the final to advertise it.
Okay, well, you guys have to figure out what those dates are.
Yeah, we've got, it's 2 weeks, so I can adjust this. But what I'm trying to say to you, Mr. Pyle, is that we can do the trim budget, the preliminary, but then the final trim
Has to be done within 15 days.
has to be done within 15 days. We have to announce it. How long? Has to be noticed.
Has to be noticed
So let me
no
just
later than, or no earlier than 5 days before
after.
the meeting.
Okay,
Yeah.
so let us work on these so we get it in line with the state requirements, then I can resend it out with these
Right.
moved up dates.
Yeah, and I'm leaving town on the 9th of July, and I don't want to leave town unless I know trim work.
Can't hear you, Mr. Pyle, I'm sorry.
Linda, you gotta mute your phone.
I'll mute her.
I have a question though. Jennifer, when you do all of this, will you note about quorum?
Yes,
Because I want to understand
100%.
when I have to come down, when I don't, okay?
Okay,
But the 7th and 8th of July are the two dates I'm looking at right now to have something done by that point. And whatever time is needed for the public notice, that we back that up and make sure we're not cutting it too short. I don't want to, it's due to the state on October 1st, and there's no reason why it can't be at the state on September 1st rather than.
yep, we can absolutely have it. It's all gonna be pending on having the quorum. So I'll note that on this. James and I are gonna go through our booklet from our training and we will update this and send it out.
Just please note when Commissioner Pyle is not in country because he's
I
one
know.
down from a quorum then, right?
I know, I wrote that down and he's one of our locals. So yeah, I wrote that down.
Yeah, well, I am back on August 9th. So anytime after August 9th, we should be able to get this done.
Well, so what you're saying is then we would set preliminary trim and then wait a whole nother month to do the final when you get back?
If you need me for a quorum.
Yeah, let me see, I've got to coordinate with all of you because this is exactly the pickle we got in last summer.
Yeah,
So I want to try to.
That's why I
avoid that.
raised the question.
Yeah, because I got all of your dates last summer and then when it came time for quorum, the dates weren't what was initially given. So let me work on this and I will send it out tomorrow. And Mr. Pyle, I'll give you a call separately.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Everybody else agreed on that?
Yeah, and Chairman Sylvia, at the last, thanks. At the last meeting, we decided there would be no hiatus, that because of the apportionment, that meetings are every month. And I remember that, I don't know if it was a vote or anything like that. So, and I also said that I am available to make a quorum any month. I mean, I'll be in England, but I will fly down and that offer still is there. So, I mean, you do have some data already. If you just go back to the, the tape and see what we had before. But there was no talk of taking a month off. I mean, it was eliminated because of the circumstances.
Yeah, to follow up on what Vice Chairman Bill said, he's correct. We decided not to do it. And then we also passed a motion to where if we needed to fly down commissioners, but yeah, we never agreed on an actual hiatus.
Right.
He's correct.
Perfect. And we'll make sure whoever's in town, we'll note that. And then if that doesn't work out or changes, we'll go to the out of towners and see if y'all can come in.
Okay, I think we're ready to adjourn.
We are.
Done. Thank you.
Great
everybody.
meeting. Well done, everybody. Bye.